And welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast, a show for leaders by leaders. It's focused on providing business and career advice, tools, and resources to help people like you achieve higher levels of success in your life. Boy, we've got a great show for you today. We've got three really power hitters out there in the business market. Today, we're talking about one of my favorite topics, franchising. Interesting enough, a lot of people don't know a whole lot about it. They see a McDonald's, they see the Wendy's, they see a Chick-fil-A or something like that out there, and they kind of understand that from a very basic perspective. But the world we live in today is a very dynamic world. There's a lot going on in the world of our global economy that's ever changing, and right now there's a lot of people in fear. There's a lot of people that just are living in the land of the unknown. There's just a lot of things going on with inflation, recession, the Great Resignation, post-COVID pandemic effects, just to name a few of the major things that are going on. And so what we're seeing out there from a big picture is that people have started making different decisions about their lives and their careers and where they spend their days and how they do that and how to balance all of that out. I think there's a lot of really good takeaways from the COVID era that people have just decided to take a little bit more control of their life, personally and professionally. A lot of people have decided to go into business for themselves, freelancing, to working for multiple companies at the same time, to, opening up their own business. And when you think about opening up your own business, you got a couple of choices. You can either bootstrap that yourself, finance it yourself, and just kind of, grow it the slow road to China and build that over time. Or two, you can go out there and find money at banks, loans, a lot of SBA things going on right now to help people do that. Equity investors, angel investors, etc. Or three, you can potentially look at franchising, buying into something that's already established. And today we have three really just accomplished people in this space. I want to introduce those people to you. The first person I want to introduce you to is Amanda Berry from Frannet. Amanda, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you and Frannet.
Hi, Jason. Thank you so much for having me. As Jason said, my name is Amanda Berry, and I am a franchise consultant. So what does that mean? I'm kind of like the eHarmony or the Match.com for people in the business world. I take people who are interested in owning a business, help them figure out if that's something they should do, doesn't match their goals and their skill set, and then find them a franchise that fits. So I've been doing that for about 5 years now, and I absolutely love what I do, and I thank you again for having me.
Yeah, you bet. We're so happy to have you on the show. She is obviously a very nice, humble person. She's a power player out there. She's really making a difference in this world from what I've seen. I've known her for a number of years now, and I've seen her and her group work with many, many people and really help kind of make their dreams come true with business ownership and in a very focused manner, very logical manner. And so we're going to learn a little bit more about that here in a few minutes as we continue the conversation. Second person we have on the show today, I want to introduce to you is Steve Thompson from Focalpoint International. Steve, welcome to the show, and tell us what about you and Focalpoint.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Jason. First off, Amanda is an excellent franchise consultant, and I know she's going to have some fun stuff for us today. Always looking forward to hearing from her. I'm in the business coaching world and have been since September of 1999, so I'm a dinosaur in this world. But what we do, kind of like what you alluded to earlier, we're really the franchise for the disenfranchised. We work in an industry, we work in an industry that isn't the We're not making pizzas or sub sandwiches or burgers, which is what people normally think of. And those are great franchise companies. But we're a little different. We work in the business services space. And we love what we do. We help people in business, do their businesses and work on their businesses for more efficiencies and systems and profitability, which ultimately gives them the things they wanted out of business when they started. So love being in this space. And I also like not being accountable to mall hours or retail hours or other people's schedules or 16-year-olds not showing up. And if I want to go to Mexico, which is where I am now, I go. So happy to be on the call today, and thanks for having me as a guest.
Yeah, Steve, always a pleasure to be with you and spend time with you. Steve came to my hometown right now, which is Louisville, Kentucky. Got a chance to spend some time with him and a couple of other colleagues, and just thoroughly enjoyed our time together over some bourbon and beers and some great Cuban food. So always great to see you, Steve.
Yeah, great to see you again, Jason.
The next person we have on the show, our third guest of today, is Brad Lawler. Brad is a franchise owner of HomeTeam Inspections. Brad, welcome to the show. Talk to us a little bit about what you do.
Hey, well, thank you. I want to be like Steve when I grow up. Apparently, he's living the good life. I love hearing it, and I guess I should have talked to Amanda before I got into franchising. But I think I met Amanda about 3 months after I purchased an existing home team franchise in Louisville about 5 years ago now. So I'm a corporate retiree. I worked for 23 years for Penske Truck Leasing in the transportation space. A friend of mine started the Home Team franchise in Louisville back in 2009. You'll remember how terrible the real estate climate was in '09, but he ventured out, started a franchise. He won the Rookie of the Year award his first year in the business, and subsequently grew the business into the number one home team franchise in the country for 3 years running. And he approached me and said, "Hey, Brad, I want to sell my business. Are you interested?" And I went, "Brian, I know nothing at all about home inspections. I'm a transportation guy. I mean, how in the world can this work?" And he's like, "Hey, just remember, I couldn't even change a light bulb when I started Home Team. True story. If he's listening, he's nodding his head yes. He still doesn't change light bulbs, but he does now. Has his PhD, and he's teaching at a local college, which is his dream come true. My dream come true was I was able to become a small business owner. And so I am still the largest home team franchise in the country. Home team is based out of Milford, Ohio. We do property inspections. There's about 195 owners around the country today, and continuing to grow. It's a great franchise. We do like I said, home inspections are the primary business. My company has grown to the point now where I'm doing a lot of commercial work. I do a lot of environmental work as well. And, the best part about, probably skipping ahead a little bit, but, we are not in the greatest real estate climate right now, if anyone hasn't noticed. But it's great to be involved with a company and another 195 owners who are going through the very same things that I am, and have the ability to share resources, share information, and even though every one of our markets is different, there is a bit of a true team out there, supporting even the local owners. So uh, it's just glad to be part of this show, and look forward to hearing smart people share their thoughts on franchising, because I'm here to learn as well.
No, thank you, Brad. And Brad's a great, humble Christian man, and he has taken that home team inspection company to a whole nother level. He's won many awards over the past few years that he's been the CEO and owner of the company. And I think is the only one in the the Kentucky, Indiana region that is I'm going to butcher this, Brad. You probably need to say it yourself, but you're, the only one connected and sponsored by the Real Estate Association. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm the official inspection partner for the Greater Louisville Association of Realtors. Is
There we
what
go. Thank
that
you.
connection is there.
Yeah, and so, it's not easy to out of 5,000, roughly 5,000 realtors in this region of our country here to achieve that. Brad's built up a lot of trust in this area and in doing what he does, and what they do is like none other I've seen in the construction real estate space. So great job to you
Thank you.
and all the great things you're doing. And then we don't have time to get into it today, but Brad is recently launched yet another business,
Yes.
and I think that's going to be just as great. So, congrats to you and all
Thank you.
your success, Brad, and what you're doing. All right, so let's kind of peel back the onion a little bit here. I want to go to Amanda first. Amanda, why should people think about franchising? Tell us a little bit about franchising and why this is a potential option for people to consider.
Oh, thanks, Jason, for that question. So personally, I love franchising. You introduced it in your introduction where you talked about the different ways of going into business. I own and operate multiple businesses in the Louisville area, so I've done everything from startups to acquiring already existing businesses to starting a franchise, which is in fact what Frannet, my company, is. So we are a franchise that helps other people find franchises. I think we just wanted to see how many times you could say franchise in a sentence, and it still makes sense. But I love franchising for its simplicity. At the core of it, a franchise it's not necessarily a specific concept or a specific industry. It's a system. It's a business system that you buy into with a little bit of sweat equity, and you replicate. So you take something that's already been successful somewhere else and you make it successful for you. Franchises don't necessarily need to be glamorous businesses. They don't necessarily need to be businesses in spaces that are cutting edge. It's all about duplicating a system and getting into if you want to get into a franchise, it should get you where you want to go faster than if you try to do it on your own. And when I speak to my clients about is franchising a good fit for you, that's the first thing we do. What's your timeline? How much runway do you have to become successful? What does that time frame look like? And is there a franchise that's going to fit your goals? Because at the end of the day, could Brad, who's a very smart individual, look at a home inspection business and create one from scratch? Of course he could have. He could have probably done that. Could he have done it in the time frame that he was able to get to success in the franchise that he's in? Absolutely not. I see Brad shaking his head. Brad, when did you define success for yourself in your business?
I think, fortunately, I bought into a top performing business. Now, of course, that comes with a price tag. So when it's funny, my friend who sold me this business, I said to him, I said, it's tough because I'm taking on your 8-year-old child, and now I'm going to have to be the stepfather taking the child into and through his teenage years. So my stated goal, right from day one was just don't mess anything up. Just follow the playbook, follow the model, don't mess it up. So, I guess, success came when employees stayed on and, realtors stayed on after they went through that trial period of, what's this guy coming in? Is he messing everything up? And I think just that the retention is probably where we realized, okay, we got the same people doing the same thing. It's just a different owner. So that's when I think we said, okay, this has been a successful transition.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more. What made that happen for you, Brad? So you come into something you've never done before, something was already established, you took over something. What is it about the franchise system that allows that to happen? Amanda was talking about the speed of things, but how do you attribute that?
Yeah, so Amanda's absolutely correct. It's really interesting. This other business that I'm launching, I did start from scratch. But I looked to see that there were some other businesses that were franchised in the space, and I did some investigative work and found out that they really didn't have a very advanced system. With Home Team, I came into a system that had already been established for 25 years, and not only did Home Team have a very successful model that they work really, really hard to keep all of their owners on that on model, on brand. I mean, everything we do, I don't want to say is carefully monitored because there's still some of our own personality and life in it. But if we do what they're coaching us to do and have trained us to do, success is going to come a whole lot quicker. So I started with the playbook. I started with the training. And now fortunately the owner that I bought it from, he also had his own, standard operating procedure, which, as a home inspector, I already have a standard of practice I have to follow, but he spelled out all of the details, from, day to day what it is that you're doing. And I think that was really the biggest part. And then with my team members understanding that I wasn't coming in to try to rebuild it or redo it, but really I was just following along with the things that they'd already been trained to do. So it just made that transition that much more successful, that much easier. And to Amanda's point, it shortened the time span. In fact, Brian and I were supposed to work together for about 60 days. At about 45 days in, he's like, "You got it. I'm out. Call me if you need me." And really, the training wheels came off, and it was, we were. I certainly didn't have the experience that all my team members had. I was on a radio show at the time that I sounded like the village idiot, I think at sometimes, but but even then you learn through it and you've got people to lean on. And I could call the franchisor at any time saying, "Hey, I got a question about." Owners have a forum, the owners go into the forum, and we're posting all sorts of questions, and other owners are giving you their experiences and their answers. So you got a lot of camaraderie that's built in, and that really 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 helped with the transition.
So we got an interesting dynamic. So Amanda has connections to, I think, around 30, is it 3,500 different franchises in the world that you can potentially connect people to. Is that
Yes, there are
right?
about 3,500 in existence. Yes. I personally, my company has vetted about 300 of them that we feel confident in.
Gotcha.
It's a
Still,
lot.
that's a lot of businesses. So Steve he's the CEO at the franchise, we'll call it corporate level for a lack of better ways of saying it. And then we've got Brad that's a franchisee of a franchise. And so I want to get Steve's perspective on this. One thing about that I'm hearing, from Amanda and Brad is franchises have established models that people that have been proven, have been, people have made mistakes potentially and have incorporated these things into as Brad called it, a playbook for people to have. Steve, in the coaching business, I'm also connected to Focalpoint myself, and I understand this a little bit, but talk to us a little bit about how important that is for that to work at a corporate entity running that type of franchise at that level.
Well, thanks, Jason. And it's interesting because, well, in our franchise, as an example, for someone like yourself who is, very astute and smart and can really be a business coach or consultant on his own, that's the kind of person we're looking for. We're looking for someone who has those abilities, but can also partner it with a process and a system that's proven. Clearly Brad has a good business acumen and could operate and run processes that were proven and hopefully refine and make them a little bit better and run them his way a bit. But we're, in the franchise world, and where I think it's so important is you're not just learning from your own mistakes. I think we learn a lot from mistakes and successes, of course. We know what to do and what not to do. And our company, as an example, and we're very emblematic of many franchise companies, we've been going for a lot of years, and we've now worked in and with over 50,000 people and businesses. Well, we've learned a lot. And I can tell you 20 years ago, we did a few things different, and not just because LinkedIn wasn't really around and those types of things. I mean, there's a lot of things that come over time, but also we scuffed our knee, we stubbed our toe, and we learned from them. We had successes and we learned from them. So the processes in franchise systems, they weren't created overnight. They evolve with time with the franchise, much like probably the one Brad's in over time from his predecessor, his friend that owned it. Things have probably changed since then. And that's a good thing. So it's one of the reasons we were so successful in the pandemic. Many of our coaches were able to capitalize and help more businesses, because if someone's working with someone in, call it pseudo medical, like a chiropractor, or an industry that was really affected by the pandemic, like a restaurant or something like that, we weren't just working with one. We were working with 10 or 50 or 100, many different companies within that industry, so that we could feed information back to one another or lean on one another to see what works and what doesn't work. So there's proven systems that work within franchise companies, and they continually evolve. And I think that's really the key to joining. And I always tell people we're entrepreneurial. We love for people to think outside the box, but don't reinvent the processes that work. You can add your spin, your flair, make it a little prettier, but it's a car. It runs. Drive it. So follow those systems.
Oh, I love it. And just from my personal experience being connected to Focalpoint, to Amanda's point, it's a jump starter, right? I thought a lot about when I decided to be a coach, and I started learning about what that really was and how it was different than like a typical consulting firm. Man, that was a lot of work. I started doing the math, and I started talking to different people in that line of business. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a massive mountain for me to create on my own. And then I came across, Focalpoint and Steve and his team. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they've mastered this. They've figured this out. I can, quickly connect to this and be part of this broader community of hundreds and hundreds of people in this space all over the world that you have access to learn from, right? And one of the things I like about the franchise models is they have the support. It's not just about the processes and the logistics and the things that they've mastered, and you plug in and can go faster, but it's really the support around it. Because even if you connect to a franchise and you buy a franchise and become a franchisee of a Papa John's to a carpet cleaning to whatever that may be, you still have to run that business. You still are going to have bad days. You're going to get told no a lot. You're going to have unsatisfied clients because they're just hard to deal with. You're going to have to go through those motions, and having that network and support of people is critical. And you certainly do get that in the franchise system. I certainly have gotten that in the Focalpoint system. Steve and I and a number of people in Focalpoint have had many conversations with me in the beginning. I remember I got frustrated a few times in the process, and here's what they said every single time: "Yes, Jason, this is normal. You're okay. You're doing great. Follow the process. Be disciplined to the process." And they were absolutely right about that. Which leads me to my next question. I'm going to go back to Amanda, and we'll have you kick this off. What makes a good candidate for a franchise?
Great question. So if you are great at copying success, that's a key indicator that you're going to be a good fit for a franchise. Now, it's going to depend on the person. It's going to depend on the franchise system. There are, I think we hit over 3,000 franchises out there, almost 4,000. They are in very different industries. There are different business models. Are you someone that wants to work from home? Are you someone that wants employees? Are you someone that doesn't want any employees? You have to figure out what type of business structure is going to fit you best. But at the end of the day, can you follow a system? Can you implement someone else's rules with still having the ability to adapt as necessary for your independent specific market? If you are someone that is constantly wants to rewrite the rules or change how everyone does everything, I would advise that a franchise is probably not you're going to be miserable in a franchise system. So you have to, one of the biggest things I work with my clients on is, know thyself, know who you are, know what you like and what you don't like, what you're good at and what to stay away from first before you jump into any business ownership. And you have to be pretty honest. If you are a micromanager, maybe business ownership is not for you. So a variety of skill sets, I think. But knowing who you are, and if you can honestly, truly follow a system and trust in a process. And that's that's going to be huge for you, and to make sure that you're choosing the right franchise to be a part of.
So how do you help people figure that out? There's a lot of people that have a lot of good ideas. They have a product or a service that they see a need or an opportunity out there in the world. And they're like, this franchise thing, and maybe I can do that, and that can help me get up to speed and going faster. But that's a process in of itself. You talked about, knowing thyself. That is really key. Clarity is key. How do you help people from your perspective, as as you call it, the matchmaker for people potentially connecting to that? How do you help people figure that out?
So it's a multi-step process. I think the first and foremost is we actually have a proprietary assessment that we give our clients that helps us identify your skill set, but also your personality type and what type of business you're already going to be good at. What type of structure are you a natural fit for? And oftentimes it's really interesting. I know, Jason, you probably see it in your business, and Steve in your business a lot as well. When someone has a skill set, they don't necessarily see it as a skill set. They just, if they're naturally good at it, they think it's just everyone is good at that. So really identifying your skill sets first is very important. And I actually sit down with the client, we go through that assessment, and we build a business model first. I think that in the day and age of Google, it is so tempting to just start Googling for ideas, right? I want to own a taco franchise, or I want to own a children's music franchise. And that's actually the exact opposite way of what I advise. First, I advise, let's build your business model first. There are 4,000 options out there. Let's create your profile. Let's figure out what type of structure you're best suited for, and then only look at those businesses that matter to you, so that you don't waste time looking at a business that's in a retail space and you just told me you don't want to work nights and weekends. Then do not own retail. So it's a little bit of, it's a lot of science and a little bit of just figuring out who you are and what your goals are. And what your family life looks like, and how you want to incorporate that into your business, because every business is a family business.
Yeah, that's a great point. Every business is a family business. I haven't heard it put that way before, but I instantly resonate with that for sure. So Steve, from your vantage point as the head of a franchise yourself, say they go through this process Amanda's talking about. They go through an assessment, and and let's say Amanda comes to you and says, "Hey, Steve, there's this really good looking guy in Louisville. His name's Jason Ballard, and he's thinking about coaching. And I think he could be a good fit for you. We did an assessment. We've talked to him, kind of vetted him, and he's all excited to learn about Focalpoint. And I'm assuming the baton gets passed over to you. What do you do at the franchise level to take somebody through that? Once you've connected somebody to a potentially good fit, how does that work from your perspective?
Well, it's a great question, Jason. And first, just want to reiterate the work that Amanda or a franchise consultant has done first, because mixed in with everything she said is, are they ready to be an entrepreneur? Because not everybody is, and some people should have a job. And when it comes, when push comes to shove, can they actually set their own alarm clock, get out of bed, and go to work for themselves? It's a lot easier to go into work for a manager or for a job for some people than it is to work for themselves. And that's the essential work that Amanda and her team do. By the time we would get someone that, like as you said, a very good-looking Jason Ballard coming to Focalpoint, by the time we get someone that's gone through those steps, we're clear. They're clear on what franchising is. They understand the benefits of franchising versus starting on their own, and they definitely have that entrepreneurial quotient. For us, then it really becomes, really focusing in on what's their passion, what do they want to do. Do they fit the culture of the environment that they're going to be in? Because, and obviously you know this because you're a part of it, culture is a really, really big part of what we look for and fit, and passion. What do they want to do? because if they're going to get out of bed every day and hate what they do, it doesn't matter how much money they make, good or bad, it will end at some point. They may make a lot of money and sell it. That's fine, but they'll be miserable for however many years. So we always look for, is this something they want to do? And with our company, it's a little bit unique because, we believe that we're changing the world in a very positive way through business and through education, because of the work we do with business owners. So a lot of our franchisees are purpose driven, and they're drawn to the why, the old Simon Sinek why. People don't buy what they do, they buy why you do it. And our coaches are very centered that way. So my advice is always, no matter what it is, whether it's something that we do or not, whichever franchise system it is, do something you have a passion for. If you want to own name any fitness franchise, but if you hate working out, don't do it. If you don't own an Orange Theory or any of these body hit things, if you don't like that stuff, and again, that's just my opinion. I love seeing people get involved in industries that they're drawn to and that they enjoy and that they find intellectually stimulating, because they're going to want to do it longer that way. So for us, it all comes down to, once we have someone identified by a consultant like Amanda, it really comes down to fit and passion and culture and doing something they're going to enjoy, because life's too short. And we've seen that, and you made reference to this earlier. We've seen that with the Great Resignation and, our new normal in this recently pandemic time. There's a lot of people that won't go back to the office because they've realized it's not what they want to do. They want to work from home, or they want to do something different. Not everybody, but there's a pool out there. And that's sort of where we come in, is wanting to help people do something that they have an authentic fit and passion for, no matter what industry. And then they're just going to be a lot happier and ultimately more profitable. When you're happy you're doing something, you're more apt to do it. So jump into something you're going to enjoy.
Wow. I think those are some very powerful words, Steve. Thank you. And especially in today's world where things just seem unsettled. Just a lot of people seem to be caught up in the noise of things and in the unknowns of things, and just trying to, feel their way through this and figure things out. And I think knowledge is key, but your passion is key. You've got to love doing whatever it is you do, and be able to put your heart and soul into it and give 100% every day. One thing that I learned from Focalpoint in my interactions with them when I was doing certification, the one thing that the instructor, her name was Margaret, she said that just stuck with me. Not that anything else wasn't important, but this one thing stuck with me more than anything else. And that is, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to make your business succeed. Long hours, smarter ways of doing things, breaking old habits, whatever that is, you have to be willing to do that. And I think that's even more so true in our environment today.
Yeah, Jason, if I could just add to that, I think that's fantastic. And since I'm the king of terrible analogies, I'll use a couple. A lot of it comes down to timing as well. And one of the things we hear from people that are going into possibly owning their own business or their own franchise is, oh yeah, but the interest rates are high. Yeah, but we may go into a recession, or yeah, but this, or yeah, but that. And here comes my terrible analogies. It's kind of like, it's never the perfect time to get married. It's never the perfect time to have kids. You need to decide if you want to be a married person first, and then find the person that you're supposed to be married to. When you're married, it's never the perfect time to have children. If you believe in your heart that that's what you want to do, then you do it. And then you figure it out from there. And that's one of the benefits in the work that Amanda does in owning a franchise. The time is never perfect. Okay. recessions, ups, downs, booms, busts. It's never perfect. But if you do something you're passionate for with a good, solid system and process, it's never a bad time. It's always going to work. So yeah, there's my terrible references to getting married and kids, and my kids are probably sick of all those bad references. So
Well, I happen to think, because I'm a dad too, that was actually a good analogy. I like that a lot. I think people can connect with that because, you're right. There's never a good time, perfect time, so to speak, to do really anything in life, right? I mean, you sometimes the good Lord just puts opportunities in front of you, and you just have to be willing to have some faith and follow your passion and your heart for where you're being led, and give 100% to that. Go all in, right?
mm-hmm.
So as we're kind of wrapping up here, Brad, I'm going to go back to you. If people are listening to this show and they're getting a lot of really good information, one of the questions I think they're going to have is, so what does it take to really be successful? How did you do this yourself? And you've done this a couple of times, Brad. So as we depart today, what are maybe the top 2, 3 things you would recommend to somebody that's considering going into business for themselves, and especially as a franchise option?
Okay, good questions, and it's interesting because one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about as we've had this discussion is the idea of having your family in the business, and I'm gonna touch on that point before the end of this. But I think going into it, the first thing that I would say is you're never gonna have enough money to get it started. Cash flow is king. Unfortunately, I don't think that there's enough discussion about that. I talk to a lot of prospective home team franchisees, and they all are kind of underestimating what it's going to cost to keep a business afloat. So that's the first thing. Make sure that you really understand the cost of it. It's not just that territory cost. You've got a lot of other things that go into it. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is you've got to communicate, and I think that I'm very much a know-it-all, and I'm not great at asking for help, but I think you really have to be willing to accept help, accept information. Looking at things. Steve said it. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. You've got a playbook. The playbook works. Just follow it. It is tempting to come in with all of these ideas and think, oh, I can do it better. But the reality is, at least starting out, I mean, follow the playbook. Strike up some relationships with other owners. Maybe those that are nearby, maybe those that are cross country. Maybe like Jason, find another military vet. Somebody that you can really
Right.
connect with, because those relationships have been so helpful to me in getting things going. I mean, a lot of people look to me, well, Brad, you're the number one franchise owner in the country. We should be coming to you. It's like, guys, I don't have all the answers. I mean, your markets, you've got so much to offer, even if you've only been in the business 1 to 2 years. So we've actually created a little bit of a mastermind group just internally within Home Team. A
Hmm.
few owners of, we get together and we talk through some of the situations that we're in. But we love working with the new owners too, to kind of help them come along. The third thing that I really I want everyone to think about is, what is your exit strategy? Because I see too many franchise owners that get into it and they're buying a job. And if that's what they're doing,
Hmm.
then I don't know that. I mean, I'm sure there's some franchises that are perfect for that, but for me, I want to be able to sell my company at some point in time. I want to be able to grow it into something that's marketable. Or in my case, my son is in the business with me. I've got 3 kids. One of my kids is in the business with me. My goal is to transition the company to him, to allow me to go and work in something different, whether it's this business that I'm launching, whether it's, being a greeter at Walmart, attending in a bowling alley, whatever it is that, that is prepared for me at that stage in my life. But so often I don't know that every franchise owner is really thinking about that exit strategy and what happens when they don't want to work, in that business anymore. Have they built something that is going to allow them to sell it, and help with their retirement ambitions and dreams?
Man, excellent points, Brad. Oh my gosh. Great feedback for folks. Think long term. This is a chess game, not a checkers game. Have a long term kind of plan through that, and never be running from something. Always be running to something, kind of like Steve was saying, the passions. Speaking of Steve, help us close out here. What are the top 2, 3 things from your perspective that you'd recommend to people considering business ownership and franchising?
Number one, talk to a franchise consultant like Amanda. Number two, talk to franchisees like Brad and get their experiences. And number three, do something you're passionate for. Yeah, I mean, I love the franchise world because I'm a big believer in process. And I'm a big believer in taking something that works and running with it and putting your effort into it. And it's all about fit. It's all about match. I love the reference earlier that was made about matchmaking. And I didn't really thought about it like that. It's true. You really are trying to match what you want with what can be provided, and not jamming a square peg in a round hole. Find a round peg for a round hole, and it just seems to fit and work. So yeah, with all sincerity, you talk to people, franchise consultants like Amanda, that can steer you in the right direction to vetted franchises. There's 4,000 franchises out there, and I'm saying not all 4,000 are wonderful. So let somebody else do that legwork for you, like a franchise consultant. And then, yeah, as mentioned, when you talk to people like Brad, who have great experience in franchise systems, they're usually, and I assume so here, just very open and honest about what works, what's good, what could be improved upon, and how their experience has been. Because I'm a firm believer, there's no perfect being on this earth. And there's no perfect company on this earth. So you have to make that round peg, round hole decision, warts and all. And you get that from talking to people like Brad, who are franchisees in systems. Yeah. And then do something you love. Life's short. If we've learned anything in this last few years, life is short. Do something you love, and you'll make a lot more money having a lot more fun. So there'd be my advice.
Oh, that's great, Steve. Always awesome words of wisdom from you. Every time I'm around Steve, he says something in every encounter, and it's like, man, that was great. I go to my car and I write it down. I'm like, man, that's awesome.
It's usually, can we have another bourbon or another beer? But not today. Yeah.
Oh, well, I wish we could. All right, Amanda. What are the top 2, 3 things that you would like to leave for our listeners that are considering these types of things?
Absolutely. So agree with everything that Steve and Brad have said. I will also say this is a scary thing. Being an entrepreneur is scary. Even if you're going into a franchise, which has some security with it, it's still not 100% safe. Know what your fears are, know what your triggers are, and understand that sometimes if you're starting to make a decision out of fear, and maybe take a step back and try to look at the facts of the situation. Because there are days, it doesn't matter how great of a business you're in or how great of an entrepreneur you are, there are going to be days where you wake up and you said, what did I just do? My entire kids' college education is on the line. I don't know what have I signed up for? That's normal. So if you are in a good system and you've done your due diligence, you have to trust the process. You've made a decision. Trust yourself. Trust your process. So one, understand fear. And if fear motivating to you or paralyzing to you, because if it's paralyzing, do not consider entrepreneurship. That is not, save yourself the time and the money and effort.
That's great. Powerful.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, Amanda, tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to learn more.
Absolutely. So my website is frannet.com, FRANNET.com. We actually have a bunch of free videos, informational sessions, all about franchising, funding, how do you get funded for businesses, how do you know if you're a right fit. Do check out our website. We also have a link to that assessment I was talking about. It is free. You immediately get your results, and I give you a call. We can go over those if you'd like. You can also just reach out to me at aberry Aberry at Frannet.com. I'd be happy to connect.
All right. We'll also put these in the show notes. Steve, how do people contact Focalpoint if they want to learn more about what from things from your perspective or just coaching in general?
Well, they go to frannet.com or Amanda Berry at frannet.com, and she helps vet them for us. I'm really not passing the buck. I love the heavy lifting that they do. So I would absolutely say contact Amanda. And of course, our website is simply focalpointcoaching.com, and you can contact us. And I highly recommend using a franchise consultant.
Absolutely. And Brad, if people want to learn more about HomeTeam Inspections and what it's like to be a franchisee from your perspective with your great advice today, how would somebody contact your organization?
Yeah, if they want to talk to the organization, I would just tell you to go to hometeam.com, and you can go straight into the corporate level site. If you put in Louisville, you'll come to my website, or you can reach me directly at blawler, Lawler, at hometeam.com. And I'm always happy to have those discussions with any potential franchise owner, because I've had so many people help me along the way. I'd love to help others understand what it's like to be on the in the owner's seat.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for being on the show. What a great show. Great words of wisdom from everybody's perspective. I think is really going to help people. Folks, feel free to reach out and contact certainly Amanda and Brad, from each end of this spectrum. They are just wonderful, wonderful people that will help you in any way they can. Obviously, you can reach out to me as well. We've got our contact information in the show notes. You can also reach out direct at soarhighercoaching.com. And we'd love to, help you in any way we can make really good decisions for yourself. That's all for today, folks. Have a great week.